The crown prince had an adopted sister who was deeply in love with him. Seeing their flirtatious glances, I proposed breaking off the engagement, but he refused. I have no feelings for her. I only took pity on her and gave her a meal. The woman hanged herself. He blamed me for her death. 10 years later, having risen to supreme power, he conspired with rebels to usurp the throne. His first act was to have me executed by slow slicing. This worthless life, you should have returned it to Wan long ago. Upon learning this, my imperial brother had his limbs severed and turned him into a human pig. Clutching my corpse, his eyes wild with madness, he cried, "She was my shuang. How could you do this to her?" Opening my eyes, I found myself back on the day I sought my imperial brother's permission for a marriage decree. The day Qin Ruan conspired with rebels to rebel was the day I died. Snow fell thick and fast as he dragged me out of the Qin residence, beginning to enumerate my crimes. 18 charges in total, each and every one concerning his sworn sister, Wan. Then, wielding a sharp blade, he began to slice away my flesh and bone. Piece by piece, as I nearly fainted, he tore the ragged cloth from my mouth and sneered, "Does it hurt? Are you desperate?" It hurt to the bone, but what hurt even more was my heart. Then he stomped viciously on the wound where had severed my scapula. When Wan hanged herself, her agony and despair were 1,000,000 times worse than yours. This worthless life of yours should have been returned to Wan long ago. Wan. So it was her. Before I could ponder further, a shout rang out from the doorway. "You audacious Qin Ruan, daring to harm the imperial family." Seeing my imperial brother, Qin Ruan showed no fear. "So what if it's the imperial family? I, Qin Ruan, aim to overturn this very heavens." No sooner had the words left his mouth than my brother severed his arm. He then ordered men to turn him into a human pig. When he saw my mangled body, he rushed over in 2 strides, cradling me in his arms with a wild look in his eyes. "She's my shuang. How could you do this to her?" Flames roared. Battle cries echoed. I tried to call out brother one last time, but my vision blurred. Shuang. Are you truly choosing that Qin Ruan as your consort? My brother's familiar voice echoed in my ears. I lifted my gaze to meet his eyes. Filled with anger and restraint, my collarbone remained intact. My limbs whole, even the excruciating pain had vanished completely. I had been reborn. Seeing my silence, my brother's expression softened. He asked with a bitter smile, "What? If your brother refuses, will you ignore him?" "Very well. Since you like him, then, no." I cut him off. Throwing myself into his arms, Shuang would never ignore His Royal Highness. "Your Royal Highness, I was only joking earlier." Shuang is still young and unfit for marriage discussions. His body stiffened momentarily before he began patting my back lightly, chuckling softly. You're still so playful. Good that you still know your limits. That Qin Ruan might not be a suitable match after all." I carefully wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and pouted at him. "Then what happened today? Your Imperial Majesty mustn't spread it around." My brother just smiled again. I know. After settling this matter, I excused myself with a pretext of feeling unwell and returned to my chambers. Dismissing everyone, I began to breathe heavily in gasps. I truly had been reborn. My brother hadn't yet issued the marriage decree. There was still time. Just then, a maid announced outside the hall, "Princess, Minister Qin requests an audience." It was him. I clenched my fists, took a deep breath, and said, "Let him in." Truthfully, I was not my brother's biological sister. I was an orphan he had rescued while leading troops in battle. Back when he was still crown prince. That year, I was only 10. Returning home from gathering firewood in the mountains, I witnessed my family slaughtered by enemy raiders. After my brother saved me, I was utterly terrified, repeating only one phrase over and over. "I have no family left." At 16, he took pity on me, adopted me as his sister, brought me to the palace, and told me he was my family. It took me 6 long years to emerge from that shadow. Later, when my brother ascended the throne, he continued to cherish me, granting me the title of princess. Alas, I was momentarily bewitched and fell for Qin Ruan, the top scholar of the imperial examinations. Swayed by his sweet talk, I petitioned my brother for a royal marriage decree. Had it not been for that woman named Wan, I would never have wavered in my resolve to marry him. Soon, Qin Ruan entered. Seeing me, he disregarded court etiquette entirely and blurted out, "Schwanger, have you petitioned the emperor?" I smiled. "Seek an imperial decree for a marriage, Minister Qin. I am a princess. A princess marriage is decided by the emperor. For a maiden like me to bring this up first would invite ridicule from all under heaven." A flicker of disappointment crossed Qin Ruan's face, but he remained courteous. "Schwanger speaks with great wisdom. As a man, it is proper for Qin to seek the emperor's decree." Uninterested in his flowery words, I asked, "Minister Qin, is there anything else?" Qin Ruanan regarded me with an inscrutable expression before finally bowing his hands. "Nothing further. In that case, you may take your leave." I watched as Qin Ruanan's footsteps faltered slightly before he strode briskly out. Soon after, I happened upon Qin Ruan and Shui Wanwan walking side by side at the Lantern Festival. Just like in my past life, they were a handsome and beautiful pair. Exchanging flirtatious glances, I intended to leave, not wanting to disturb their mood. Unexpectedly, Qin Ruan spotted me and immediately hurried over. He bowed his hands toward me. "Your Highness." Behind him, Shui Wanwan tugged at his sleeve. Her eyes filled with hostility toward me, seeming to notice her actions. Qin Ruanan shot her a glare, yanked his sleeve free, and explained to me, "Your Highness, this is my younger sister. She's timid and inexperienced. I hope you'll forgive her." I smiled, exposing his lie. "Since she's not your blood sister, why be so harsh? Minister Qin, you might just break this young lad's heart." A flicker of embarrassment crossed his face before he sighed dejectedly. "Is this why your Highness hasn't petitioned His Majesty for a royal match?" "Princess, I, Qin, swear by heaven my feelings for Wanwan are purely those of a brother." Seeing Shui Wanwan's eyes grow increasingly red, I cut him off and hurried toward my brother, dressed in plain clothes behind him. "Brother, you came to see the lanterns too. Why didn't you tell me?" With that, I hooked my arm through his and nestled affectionately against his shoulder. Qin Ruan swallowed the words that filled his throat. As I bowed to my brother, I caught sight of his clenched fists. Not wanting to witness their unpleasantness any longer, I suggested to my brother, "Brother, there are beautiful lanterns over there. Let me show you." Pulling my brother away, I called back over my shoulder, "We won't disturb your elegant pastime. Please enjoy yourselves." As the Lantern Festival drew to a close, Shui Wanwan approached me, without a word. She knelt before me and bowed her head. "Your Highness, I know I've overstepped, but there are things I must say. Young master truly loves you. My feelings for him are only those of a brother. I beg your mercy." After speaking, she deliberately or inadvertently placed her hand on her lower abdomen. My heart tightened. Could it be? She was already pregnant. In my previous life, Shui Wanwan had knelt before me in this very manner. Alas, I had been so startled by her sudden gesture that I hadn't noticed this unconscious movement. Upon hearing her explanation, I believed her words. After she recounted her pitiful origins, I even affectionately called her sister. I promised her, "Rest assured, since you've befriended me, I won't treat you unfairly. Once my marriage to Lord Qin is settled, they'll find you a good match among the young nobles in the capital." Little did I know that Qin Ruan witnessed our interaction. He reiterated, "I have no designs on her. I merely took pity on her and offered her sustenance." The next day, Shui Wanwan hanged herself. Only now did I realize. When Shui Wanwan stroked her belly, it was a subtle hint. Her tearful pleas were a strategic retreat. Seeing my silence, Shui Wanwan bowed her head again. I beg your highness. I did not rise to help her up, but spoke calmly. Miss Shui, why persist? Marriage is a matter of mutual affection. I have no interest in Lord Qin. Why cling to this entanglement? No sooner had the words left my mouth than Qin Ruan's voice came from behind me. Princess. I glanced up at him. Since Lord Qin has heard this, I need not waste further words. I ask that you, Lord Qin, henceforth choose your words carefully and refrain from tarnishing this prince's reputation. With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. Yet after taking only a few steps, another thought struck me. Since Shui Wanwan was already pregnant, capturing Qin Ruan was merely a matter of time. She certainly wouldn't seek death. Then her hanging herself must have been suspicious. I didn't go far. Instead, finding a hidden spot to watch the two of them, whatever they discussed. Qin Ruanan strode off in another direction. Only after he was out of sight did Shui Wanwan glance around warily before slipping into a narrow alley behind the crowd. Her furtive movements prompted me to follow discreetly. No sooner had she entered the alley than a stranger appeared. She addressed Hi. M with great deference, exchanging a few polite words before breaking into a cold smile. I intended to make her back down. If Qin Ruan still refused me, I defeigned suicide to threaten him. Who'd have thought she'd reject him herself? Sure enough, she never meant to die. Perhaps an accident during the staged suicide turned it real. The man responded at this moment. That's a fortunate turn of events. Since you're already carrying his child, you must use this to force him into marriage. The Qin boy shows some talent. With our covert support, he's bound to rise to prominence. Exactly what we need. Shui Wanwan murmured yes. I didn't catch what else they plotted before parting ways shortly after. Seeing that unfamiliar man's face, I suddenly realized he was the very person who had stormed the palace alongside Qin Ruan in my previous life. Could it be that Shui Wanwan was also connected to the rebels? Realizing this, I quickly hid myself. The matter of Qin Ruan colluding with rebels in my past life suddenly made sense. I knew this matter was no ordinary affair. I had to secretly uncover the true identities of those people, especially since the other party mentioned secretly aiding Qin Ruan. It reminded me that perhaps rebels had already infiltrated the court. I just never imagined that Qin Ruan, who had always seemed upright and honorable in my eyes, was actually a complete hypocrite. After I rejected him last time, I learned from a maid that Qin Ruan had feigned drunkenness to confide in several ministers. He portrayed himself as a pitiful man deeply in love with me, while I had lost interest and cast him aside. I found it laughable, and even more so, I regretted how blind I had been back then. When my imperial brother heard of this, he flew into a rage in court. He stripped Qin Ruan of 3 months' salary and ordered him to face the wall in penance for 7 days at home. Afterward, he comforted me. Shuang shuang. Don't be afraid. Qin Ruan spoke insolently, and imperial brother has punished him. Remember, no matter what happens, imperial brother will shield you. In my past life, I deheated Qin Ruan's slander and grown increasingly distant from my brother. Now I see that every word he spoke, every glance he gave, was an act of protection for me. Fighting back tears, I forced a smile. Fine, brother. Truthfully, if he hadn't acted this way, I wouldn't have pursued it further. But now, don't blame me for being blunt. Next, I informed him of Shui Wanwan's pregnancy, temporarily withholding the matter of rebels within the court. After all, rebirth was indeed an extraordinary tale, and if I were to investigate secretly, it would be far less likely to alert the enemy than if my brother did. However, before I could spread the news, another major incident erupted within the palace. Shui Wanwan presented a token to the Empress Dowager, declaring herself the long-lost princess abandoned among commoners years ago. When I next saw Shui Wanwan, the Empress Dowager was already holding her hand affectionately. both displaying the heartrending demeanor of a long-separated reunion. The Empress Dowager, unaware of my prior encounter with Shui Wanwan, beckoned me over. Shuang come here. This is Wanwan, me long-lost biological daughter. I never imagined I'd find my princess in my lifetime. By the end of her words, the Empress Dowager began wiping away tears. The Empress Dowager did indeed have a princess lost among the common folk, back when the late emperor was still a prince and she was his princess consort. The princess consort and her son were taken hostage by a rival kingdom. The Empress Dowager was pregnant at the time. 3 years later, through a stroke of luck, she managed to retrieve both children. Unfortunately, during the journey, she lost her daughter, who was just over 2 years old. Despite searching tirelessly all these years, there had been no trace of her. It was precisely because of this that when my imperial brother found me and wished to adopt me as his foster daughter, the Empress Dowager claimed we shared a special bond and consented to the arrangement. But now, this princess who has been found, I know she is an imposter. At this moment, the Empress Dowager's longing for her daughter is overwhelming, and she is convinced that Shui Wanwan is her long-lost child. I can only join in the congratulations. Thus, I bowed and said, Shuang congratulates Her Majesty. The Empress Dowager wiped away her tears, took my hand, and placed it in Shui Wanwan's. Wanwan, this is Shuang, whom I've spoken of to you. From this day forward, you shall reside in the palace. Should you ever lack a playmate, you may always seek out your elder sister Shuang. Shui Wanwan looked at me, her smile dripping with petty triumph. Yet she still timidly replied, yes, mother. The irony was, the moment we left the Empress Dowager's hall of cultivating the heart, Shui Wanwan's true colors couldn't be concealed any longer. She looked at me haughtily and sneered, Qin Shuang, you never dreamed I'd be the real princess, did you? Now that I, the genuine princess, stand before you, doesn't it strike you as utterly ridiculous, you, the substitute? I chuckled softly. The laughable part is whether in me or you, I'm sure you know that better than anyone. If you came here to flaunt your status, let me tell you this. You've picked the wrong person. Only those who lack something desperately try to show off what they have. With that, I turned to leave. Shui Wanwan was so furious her molars nearly shattered. Yet she still barked coldly, stop right there. I knew Shui Wanwan didn't seek me out just to show off. The more she ordered me to stop, the faster I walked, soon disappearing from her sight. I had more important matters to attend to. Soon, I uncovered the full story. Shui Wanwan had indeed sought out the palace. The Empress Dowager personally verified a birthmark known only to her, and with the token of proof, confirmed that Shui Wanwan was indeed her long-lost daughter. But I remembered the princess was someone else. In my previous life, the true princess was only found after I had married. She was a sensible and kind-hearted girl, lonely in the palace. I became her only companion whenever I visited the Empress Dowager. Now Shui Wanwan has taken the true princess place in the palace. I knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. The real princess must be in grave danger. With this thought, I immediately sought out the secret guard my imperial brother had assigned to me. I ordered him to secretly monitor Shui Wanwan's every move, determined to use this lead to find the true princess. What I hadn't anticipated was how quickly Shui Wanwan captured the Empress Dowager's heart. I realized something was amiss when the daily supplies sent from the palace were significantly reduced. My personal maid, Gigi, inquired and discovered it was the Empress Dowager's order. Not only that, but the young palace maid I sent to watch Shui Wanwan informed me that Shui Wanwan was heading my way right now, seemingly plotting another scheme. Gigi was at a loss, her heart in knots. Princess, what are we to do? I responded with a smile. Well, meet force with force, water with earth. I have my ways. That night, Shui Wanwan indeed came calling. She first pretended to look around my palace, then sneered with contempt. Some people are so used to squatting in others' nests They might actually believe this is theirs. If I were you, I'd have left the palace in shame long ago to avoid making a fool of myself. I knew she was trying to provoke me, so I merely shot back sarcastically. You're still fresh from the common folk, your words reek of bitterness and spite. Shui Wanwan was instantly struck dumb with fury. Her eyes widened, and she stood speechless for a long moment. When that tactic failed, she tried another, suddenly slapping herself across the face before collapsing to the ground. I admit I was stunned, never expecting Shui Wanwan to resort to such a low tactic. Then, I heard her wail accusingly. Sister Shuang Shuang, why did you hit me? The Empress Dowager's voice echoed behind me. Shuang Shuang, what are you doing? Shui Wanwan clung to her like a lifeline, sobbing as she rushed to complain. Mother, I don't know what I did to offend Sister Shuang Shuang. My stomach hurts so much. Hearing this, the Empress Dowager turned to Shui Wanwan. Startled. What's going on? The Imperial Physician. Quick! Summon the Imperial Physician. The Imperial Physician arrived swiftly. After taking her pulse, the physician's expression darkened when the Empress Dowager inquired. Sensing something amiss, the Empress Dowager demanded coldly, Speak. What exactly is wrong with the princess? Shui Wanwan's face was deathly pale from the agony. She seemed to want to say something, but the pain left her gasping for breath. Perhaps driven by desperation, the physician finally revealed the truth. Your Majesty. The princess. She has suffered a miscarriage. What? The Empress Dowager was stunned by the words. For a woman to conceive before marriage was considered a scandal even among common folk, let alone a princess of noble birth. The Empress Dowager froze for a moment before snapping back to reality. She ordered everyone present. This matter must remain confidential today. If anyone dares leak a single word, I will have your heads. Is that understood? Shui Wanwan tried to speak again, but the Empress Dowager cut her off sharply. You too, be silent. Wait until I question you before answering. Attendants, escort the princess back to the Hall of Splendor. Shui Wanwan probably never realized that I orchestrated this entire affair. I deduced she was pregnant and deliberately had a palace maid relay a message to the imperial kitchen. Crab meat is at its most succulent this season. I crave it. Ever since entering the palace, Shui Wanwan had opposed me at every turn. Whatever I ate or used, she seized it all the moment she learned of it. This time was no exception. The crab meat prepared for me by the imperial kitchen was entirely taken by her. Crab meat is cooling in nature, forbidden for pregnant women. In the end, she fell victim to her own actions. Yet this incident seemed to have little lasting effect on her. The Empress Dowager was furious for a moment, but soon mother and daughter were back to being as close as ever. I don't know what else Shui Wanwan told the Empress Dowager, but the Empress Dowager grew increasingly distant toward me, until this day, when she found me again, her teeth gnashing as she demanded, The child in my womb was lost because of you. I replied calmly, Child, princess, I don't understand what you're saying. Still trying to wriggle out of it. Her hand shot out again, only to freeze midair. I won't strike you today, but it'll make you suffer 1,000 times over. Listen carefully. The child in my womb is Lord Qin's. I've already explained everything to mother. Soon, she will grant me a marriage decree with Lord Qin. As for you, you've always been nothing but a discarded woman. I smiled. A discarded wife. Princess. Have you forgotten? What you seized through such effort was merely something I discarded. How can you speak of discarding me? You, Shui Wanwan, unable to out-argue me, resorted to threats. Qin Shuang, don't think you're without blemish. Just wait. Soon enough, it'll make you understand what death truly means. Unfazed, I offered her a parting shot. I'll be waiting to see. What I hadn't anticipated was Shui Wanwan slandering me for seducing the emperor. When the Empress Dowager arrived, she flew into a rage. So this is how you behave, daring to do such things right under my nose. Is it? I protested my innocence. But Xue Wanwan fanned the flames beside me. The Empress Dowager, enraged, ordered her attendants to punish me. The paddle struck my palms again and again as she coldly demanded, "Qin Shuang Shuang, do you know your crime?" Knowing Xue Wanwan was present, I realized yielding was my only way to minimize punishment. So I knelt before her and kowtowed. Shuang Shuang acknowledges her guilt. Perhaps seeing my swift submission displeased Xue Wanwan, who pressed on. "What good is acknowledging guilt? Your imperial brother has no consorts to attend him because of you. Could it be you aspire to be empress? How dare she?" The Empress Dowager continued her scolding. "Listen well to this. The empress of our great Rome must be a noble lady of high birth. You, however, are merely someone the emperor picked up from the common folk. You must always be clear of your place." I spoke again in a low, submissive voice, but then my imperial brother rushed over in a flurry. He immediately helped me up. "Shuang Shuang, are you all right?" The Empress Dowager's gaze turned even more contemptuous. "What is this? Your Majesty, do you truly intend to protect her?" The emperor glanced at the wound on my palm. His eyes filled with tenderness. He then lifted his robe and knelt. "Mother, this has nothing to do with Shuang Shuang. It is I who harbored improper thoughts toward her. If you wish to punish someone, it should be me. He shouldn't have come." But I also knew that if Xue Wanwan had informed my imperial brother, he couldn't possibly stay away once he learned of this. Seeing his resolute stance, the Empress Dowager sneered coldly. "The sovereign of a nation, kneeling before a mere woman. Very well, very well. Today, this Empress Dowager will risk her life to deal with her. Attendants, confine the princess to the Buddhist hall. Let her reflect on her actions." I was locked in the Buddhist hall, yet Xue Wanwan still wouldn't let me off the hook. She rushed over just to mock me. "Qin Shuang Shuang, see, even if you told the Empress Dowager about my pregnancy before marriage, she wouldn't dare punish me. That's what they call a mother-daughter bond. Understand?" I gave a cold laugh. "Mother-daughter bond. True enough. You are the Empress Dowager's biological daughter, of course you share that bond. Then I'll offer my early congratulations to you and Minister Qin on 100 years of blissful union." I truly had no time to engage further with Xue Wanwan, though I remained uncertain what exactly the Empress Dowager had been charmed into believing by Xue Wanwan. At least my punishment was merely a few strokes of the cane and 3 days facing the wall in the Buddhist hall, not particularly severe. My only concern now was the safety of the true princess. Fortunately, Gigi secretly informed me that the secret guards had located her. She was now being sheltered in a secure location. Shortly after Gigi left, my imperial brother arrived. Guilt filled his eyes as he looked at me. "Shuang Shuang, I've caused you so much suffering." Seeing Mother's fury made me realize I shouldn't have said those things. But I cut him off. "Brother, I don't blame you. I'm actually grateful." He opened his mouth, finally forcing a bitter smile. He reached out to ruffle my hair. "I only wish for your well-being. What I said before Mother today was merely a temporary measure. Please don't dwell on it or feel burdened. I want you to follow your heart." I smiled and agreed readily. "All right. Silly brother, could it be that because I made him promise to be my brother forever when we were young, this affection has remained hidden in his heart all this time?" My eyes stung with tears. But now was no time for sentimentalities. I told him everything I knew, including Xue Wanwan's false identity as princess, and the whereabouts of the real princess. Naturally, I also informed him about the rebel faction. Upon hearing this, my brother's expression immediately grew grave. No wonder I always felt something was off about Xue Wanwan. Without evidence and with Mother longing for her daughter, we must proceed cautiously. But rest assured, since I know all this, I'll handle it. And as for the rebels, don't get involved, it's too dangerous. I nodded. Understood. I knew this was perilous. Then, drawing on memories from my past life, I sketched the faces of the rebels I'd seen and had my brother investigate them discreetly. After 3 days of reflection, I was quickly released. While Shui Wanwan busied herself currying favor with the Empress Dowager, I disguised myself and slipped out of the palace. Upon seeing the true princess, Ru Zhu, whom Gigi had arranged for, memories from my past life flooded back. 1,000 words rushed to my lips at the sight of her. But she knelt before me the moment she saw me. You must be Princess Shuang. Ru Zhu thanks the princess for saving my life. It was as if I'd awakened from a dream. Right in this lifetime, the real princess and I were meeting for the very first time. I held back the tears that nearly spilled over and hurriedly helped her up. This is unthinkable. You are the true princess. How could you perform such a grand gesture before me? Only after talking with her did I learn the truth. She had indeed been abducted by that group. They had replicated every feature of her appearance almost perfectly, intending to silence her by killing her. Fortunately, the secret guards I had dispatched managed to rescue her. When I explained that the fake princess had taken her place and that I intended to set things right, she refused. It's unnecessary. Princess Shuang, thank you for your kindness. I know returning to my rightful place would bring endless wealth and honor, but it's too dangerous. I don't want the princess to risk herself for me again. She remained as kind-hearted as ever. Sadly, sometimes kindness misplaced becomes the very blade your enemies wield against you. I looked at her earnestly. Ru Zhu, this is what you deserve. You must reclaim it. Reclaiming your rightful identity carries risks, but allowing others to exploit it will only breed greater calamity. Since they seek to silence you by force, they won't rest until they succeed. Rather than fleeing, face this with me. Trust me. I intended to bring her into the palace. Yet as we stepped out of the inn, we unexpectedly encountered Qin Ruan once more. His eyes turned bloodshot at my sight, a mocking sneer curling his lips. I had no desire to engage him, yet he blocked my path. Your Highness, dressed so inconspicuously called it, you've slipped out for a secret rendezvous with your lover? I asked with a cold laugh. Is it any of your business? There's nothing left between us. Stop pretending to care. Don't think I don't know what you've been after from the start. Qin Ruan. Here's a piece of advice for you: those who do wrong will meet their downfall. Qin Ruan froze for a moment before bursting into laughter. You call yourself a princess. You really think you're something special. You're just a fake. Well, see how long your arrogance lasts. Mark my words, you can't help me. But Wanwan can. When you're left with nowhere to turn, it'll make you regret every moment. It seemed Shui Wanwan and Qin Ruan had already joined forces. After settling Ru Zhu, I went to see my imperial brother. I shared my suspicions with him. He smiled reassuringly. I've already found the people in your painting. They are indeed problematic. Following the trail, I've also uncovered several key figures. Rest assured, I've made all the necessary arrangements. We're just waiting to close the net. Shui Wanwan's wedding was set for year's end. Before then, Qin Ruanan, manipulated by those ministers, had indeed been promoted twice. Yet I never imagined Shui Wanwan would still be stirring trouble. She charmed the Empress Dowager, still harping on how I'd bewitched my brother. She claimed it was my very existence that kept him from crowning an empress. After my confinement, the Empress Dowager intends to banish me. Of the 3 great disgraces of filial piety, failing to bear an heir is the gravest. That day, the Empress Dowager summoned me privately once more. Seeing me prostrate before her, she sighed deeply. Finally, she personally helped me to my feet. Shuang, though we are not blood-related mother and daughter, we have lived together all these years. Do you still not understand your mother's heart? I was momentarily speechless, unsure what to say. The Empress Dowager continued. That day, when I had Nanigwa strike you with the board and punished you with confinement in the Buddhist hall, you saw Chinger's feelings. But what of your feelings for him? I admit, this move by the Empress Dowager had truly caught me off guard. I'd assumed she'd simply been incensed by Shui Wanwan's scheming and punished me in anger. Now I stared at her blankly, 1,000 words boiling down to 2. Mother, the Empress Dowager carried on uninterrupted. That child Chinger has endured every hardship with me since childhood. He's always kept things bottled up inside, bearing them alone, even his affection for you. Had I not pressed him that day, he likely would never have revealed the truth. He set aside the harem for your sake. Other emperors his age would have filled their palaces long ago. Today, Mother asks you one thing. What are your true feelings toward him? What were my true feelings toward him? My fists clenched slightly at that moment. His kindness toward me, every little thing had done for me. And the madness and obsession in his eyes when he held me in my past life. To say I wasn't moved would be a lie. Especially when I thought of how my imperial brother had shielded me behind him without hesitation. My heart felt not only sweetness but also a palpable flutter. Before I could reply, the Empress Dowager spoke again, her voice slow and measured. I offer you 2 choices. First, remain in the palace, marry Chinger, and become my daughter-in-law. Second, I release you from the palace. We shall part ways forever, never to meet again. My voice trembled as I answered. I choose to stay in the palace. That night, my brother found me. He looked at me meaningfully and said, Shuang Shuang, I heard everything that happened today. Our mother has always been strong-willed, and I know you suffered injustice. If this is not your true wish, I will plead with our mother again. If that fails, I will find you a place of freedom and ease, where you can live without worry for the rest of your life. Before he could finish speaking, I had already thrown my arms tightly around him. I won't go anywhere. When you saved me all those years ago, you told me that wherever you are is home. Mother didn't force mesh helped me see my own heart. Unless my royal brother doesn't want this. He hurriedly cut me off. I do. I want this. Then he cupped my face. Shuang Shuang. I'm so happy. News of my impending marriage to my royal brother spread quickly. I heard that after Shui Wanwan found out, she stormed to the Empress Dowager's quarters and caused quite a scene. But the outcome was predictable. This incident displeased the Empress Dowager. I heard Shui Wanwan went several times, but the Empress Dowager always refused to see her, citing illness. I knew the time had come to expose her as an imposter. Coincidentally, my brother informed me he had already laid a trap. His plan was to capture all the rebels in one fell swoop on the day of Shui Wanwan's wedding. As for the Empress Dowager, my brother informed me that the true princess had arranged for her to be reunited with the Empress Dowager as mother and daughter. Upon learning of everything Shui Wanwan and the rebels had done, the Empress Dowager was furious. Naturally, to ensure the complete eradication of these traitors, the Empress Dowager was willing to play along with our charade. Soon, the day of Shui Wanwan and Qin Ruan's wedding arrived. Shui Wanwan, dressed in a crimson wedding gown, sat regally in her palanquin. The procession stretched for miles, a scene of vibrant celebration. To ensure the play went without a hitch, my brother personally presided over the wedding ceremony. Sure enough, during the ritual bow to heaven and earth, the rebels shed their disguises, drew their swords, and lunged directly at my brother. At that very moment, Shui Wanwan lifted her red veil, dagger raised, aiming straight at me, but I did not falter. Together with my brother, we faced them calmly. Just as Shui Wanwan froze in confusion, the secret guards appeared in time. In an instant, countless imperial guards leapt down from the rooftops, forming a protective circle around us. They had assassins in disguise. We had thoroughly prepared secret guards and elite imperial warriors. After a fierce battle, Shui Wanwan, Qin Ruan, and the entire band of rebels were apprehended. Even as she was arrested, Shui Wanwan remained bewildered. Why? Why did you uncover my plot when I thought it was flawless? I merely smiled and told her it was a secret. Truthfully, I had deliberately leaked information to Shui Wanwan earlier, proof that she was an imposter princess. Shui Wanwan, seeking to eliminate me as a threat, realized she couldn't do it alone. so she leaked the news about the emperor personally presiding over my wedding to the rebels. She told them this was their only suitable moment to strike. Little did she know, this played right into my hands. The rebels were wiped out, and the real princess, Ruju, was recognized by the Empress Dowager. It turned out there truly was a mother-daughter bond. After just one meeting, the Empress Dowager confirmed Ruju was her daughter. She confided that she had long suspected Shui Wanwan's true identity, yet everything had seemed so perfectly aligned, so coincidentally fitting, that she hadn't simply accepted Shui Wanwan's twisted logic. It had all been a calculated expedient. I couldn't help but marvel. A woman who could escape an enemy nation with a child and secure the position of Empress Dowager was truly extraordinary. Afterward, Shui Wanwan was sentenced to execution in the autumn. As for Qin Ruan, his original sentence was also decapitation, but at my request, my imperial brother changed it to death by lingchi. The pain of my past life remains unforgettable. Even after living another lifetime, only by making him endure suffering beyond what any ordinary person could bear could my heart find solace. I asked my brother, "Brother, do you think I'm cruel?" He shook his head. "How could I? Whatever you do, shuang, has its reasons." I told him I had a terrible dream where Qin Ruanan carved out my bones and flesh, and I died in his arms. He held me tightly, telling me it was only a dream, that he would protect me. Afterward, my brother Su Cheng and I held a grand wedding ceremony. I became the sole female companion in his harem. Before Qin Ruan was executed by dismemberment, I visited him in his cell. The jailers had already tortured him beyond recognition. Yet upon seeing me, he disregarded his wounds, crawling before me and pleading desperately, "Shuang, for the sake of our past affection, please plead with the emperor. Let him spare me." Everything was Shui Wanwan's doing. I knew nothing. I had no idea what Shui Wanwan was thinking, but the man before me was utterly repulsive to me. Enough. Pleading with me is useless. Don't think I'm unaware. When Shui Wanwan attempted to assassinate me, you watched coldly, hardly the behavior of someone ignorant. Qin Ruan froze instantly, then shouted accusingly, "So you wanted me dead from the very beginning, didn't you?" "Yes," I answered without fear. "Blame your own despicable nature. You probably still don't realize that your dear sister Shui Wanwan has been using you from the start. She knew your talent, knew your family background, and saw how deeply you were in love with her. That's why she wanted to exploit you from the very beginning. But weren't you also trying to use her? You're two of a kind. Now that you're traveling together on the road to the underworld, it seems your wish to be together forever has finally come true." Hearing this, Qin Ruanan began kowtowing frantically before me. "Shuang, I was wrong. Truly wrong. Give me one chance, it'll change. I swear." "No chance," I replied coldly. "Truth be told, the emperor originally intended to sentence you to immediate execution. It was I who insisted on slow slicing." At that moment, Qin Ruan was struck as if by lightning. When he finally regained his senses, he began cursing viciously. I merely waved my hand. Prison guards seized him, cut out his tongue, and dragged him away to be executed by lingchi. In this lifetime, what needed to end had ended. At last, I could spend the rest of my days peacefully with the one I loved. The end.